So thank you for being here. We're going to start with foam rolling. So if you don't have a foam roller at home, you usually can find one at like Walmart or Target, any of those big box stores. We also do sell them in store. We do not ship these just because it'd be a little bit more expensive. This one that we have has a hard inside so that it doesn't collapse, and it is matrixed as well here. It just gives a little bit more to help break up the tension in the tissues, and it's just a little bit more upgraded is all. So I'm going to use this one. Make sure you have one to follow along with if you're joining us for this course. So before we get started, I want to talk about 3 tips that I have about foam rolling and how to get the best results for you and your body. The first one is to use whatever area you're not working on, and I'll show this as I go throughout each area as well. Use your body to kind of control your weight and your pressure and to balance yourself out. Again, I'll go more in depth with that in a little bit. Secondly, go super slow with each of the moves. If you're going super fast, some people like to foam roll like super fast. It's not going to work that well, and your body won't release into the foam roller itself, and you won't be able to get the releases of the tension that you were hoping for. So if you just press down with whatever you're doing, like, and then you just take it really slow, your body will be able to sink into that pressure, be able to release that tension. And it's kind of just like what I do with massage. I go slow, I find the spot, and then I let myself sink into that spot as your body allows me to with massage. So same thing with the foam roller. The third thing is, that's the third thing, when you find a spot, sit there and hold it. Don't just keep going back and forth. So go super slow, and then when you find a spot and it's referring or it's tender or it's a little bit painful, just sit there and hold that spot and it should release. If you can't handle it, try to take off a little bit of pressure and then go back in and try and again, or go away from the area and then go back towards the area and see if you can go in a little bit more. And just hold that spot and wait for it to release. If it's not releasing, just keep going back and then come do another pass, whether it's your leg or your hip, do another pass to that area and sit and hold that area again. Eventually it should release. And if it's not releasing, just take a break and come back to it the next day. The third thing is I generally try to avoid bones. It's just not going to feel that great if you're foam rolling on bones, especially like hip here. And then low back, I try to avoid the spinal column just because, well, you're not, like when you're in low back, you want to get these muscles, and the best way to do it is to be at an angle anyway. When you're in your thoracic, that's okay to foam roll because you can get kind of a good even pressure across your back. But for the most part, I try to avoid my hips, the bones itself, and then my personal low back. If anything just doesn't feel great, just step away from that spot, try to go in a different angle and see if you can figure out something else from there. So those are the first few tips before we get started, and now we can get started, and I hope you have fun following along. So first we're going to get started. We're going to start with the front of our legs and the shin. The biggest part we're going to try foam rolling here is the tibialis anterior, and that's just on the outside of our leg and the front of our leg here. We're going to go from our knee all the way down into our ankle and just take it slow, as I mentioned in the beginning. So I'm going to show you on the side here to see if you guys can get a good idea. And then point your toe in, and the outside of your leg will be able to be seen a little bit better. And just start at your knee, and again, just go slow. And if you want more weight, you can put your hands on the ground. And then again, just take it slow. I'm not feeling too much. Oh, there's a spot right here, so I'm just gonna sit and hold it. It's referring down into my ankle. I know that's a trigger point, so I'm just gonna sit and hold it. And with trigger points, you can just sit and hold it until it releases, until you feel that referral is gone. You don't feel that referral down into your ankle anymore. And if it's taking too much time, again, just go back to it later. You can hold the trigger point for 30 seconds to a minute. So you shouldn't be overdoing it if you're holding it for a longer period of time. That's totally okay. So I'm gonna go down all the way, as you can kind of see, all the way down into the my ankle here, because those muscles go all the way actually into your toes as well. And if it starts to feel really sharp and tender, that's just because that area is turning into tendon, and connective tissue tends to be a lot more tender than muscle tissue. So that was the shin, pretty easy. You can do it on both sides. Sometimes I even just do both legs up, if you can kind of see that. And then you can just go both legs at the same time. And I'm actually gonna do it towards you so you can see, just so I'm not going out of the video. So you can go both legs all the way down into your ankles, and then just take it back. And you can't see the foam roller right now, of course, but that's another way to do it if you're doing both at once. If you just do it one leg at a time, you just have a little bit more control and can control that a little bit easier. The second one I'm going to show you is quads. I've done a reel on this too, but quads are really, really good for foam rolling, especially if you have knee pain. And just it's just you also have hip flexors. You have a hip flexor in your quads as well. So if you're having troubles with walking and whatnot, this is a really, really good area to foam roll as well. So I'm going to take it back here to see. So with the quads, like if I'm foam rolling this leg, I'm going to put this one out and use this leg as my control. And then I also use my arms as control too. So I'm going to try to show you this here. So when I start, I'm going to start at my knee, and then I'm going to foam roll all the way up here into my hip, because this is where the insertion of the rectus femoris is. And that's where one of the biggest trigger points in your quad is. So I'm going to come here this direction. So you can see I'm going to start at my knee. And I'm going to bring this knee all the way up so I have really good control, and put my foam roller right above my knee. You don't want to be on your knee. And then just start taking it up slowly. You can see how slow I'm going. This is real time. Again, not super fast. Just let your body relax into it as much as you can. If you're not feeling much, you can even take it lower to get more pressure. Foam roller up a little bit so you guys can see. And then as I get closer to my hip, I'm going to bring this out so that I'm not running into my pubic bone here. And then all the way up into my hip. So as you can kind of see, I'm getting closer to that hip area. And all the way up into that hip. And then that trigger point is right on top there, that insertion. And you might have to turn, as you can kind of see, I'm turning as my body needs me to make sure I'm getting right into that insertion point. And of course, I know where it is because I've done this before, but you can just play with it. Don't be scared to manipulate your body as you need to find the areas that are tender and sore and need some work. You might end up on your side, you might end up turning a little bit. That's totally okay. Just take your time. So I'm going to show you again on the other side. And then I'll try to show you a little bit on the adductors as well, because those are some really intense muscle, or we use these muscles a lot as well with walking and different things. So you can kind of I'll kind of show you the quad first, and then we'll go into the adductor. You might not see my face for a little bit, so just kind of watch what I'm doing. Again, start at the knee, follow along if you do have a foam roller at home with you, and just go slowly, slowly up your leg here. And right now I'm just going straight up the center. And then I'll show you a little bit more how you can get on the inside in a little bit when I show you more of the adductors. All the way up into the hip. And then if you wanted to get, I don't like to go right on IT band, but if you wanted to get more of like vastus lateralis that wraps around and under IT band, you can even start more on the outside of your knee and kind of come in so you have a different angle, so it's not just straight up the side, because all the trigger points aren't just straight up the middle. And do that way up into your hip. And then adductors. So as you can see, the entire time I'm using this opposite leg and my arms as strength. So just try to do that as much as you can. So adductors, I am like sitting sideways. So you can see front leg is crunched underneath me, and then this leg is out and on the foam roller here. And then you can just use your body's weight to kind of come here and then press your leg down into there. My adductors are super tender, so I'm not going very deep, but you can kind of come up on top of it more if you need to get more weight. And then again, super slow. And I was more tender down here, so I'm going to come back here and just hold it. Hold it there. Yeah. And then I have a spot that's like right here, so I'm just gonna, again, you can kind of see I'm manipulating my leg as I need to find those areas and get it right on top of those spots. And I feel like a lot of you can relate to this because you tell your spouses or your significant others, okay, not right there, a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, do that with yourself when you're foam rolling. Just kind of find those areas and let yourself get into it. And the adductors, you won't be able to go all the way up into your hip, but you can get so much of these lower fibers that will be so beneficial for your body. And then as you feel like everything's releasing, I just like to do a couple more rolls, make sure everything's feeling great, and then move on to the next area. So you just saw, we did the shin, we did the front of the quad here. I showed you a little bit on the lateral quad, and then I showed you some adductors. So now I'm gonna try and show you some hamstring foam rolling, and the hamstrings are in the back of our leg here. Hamstrings, they can have a lot to do with like low back tension. If you have low back tension or hip tension, foam rolling the hamstrings will be really, really good. And this, again, with any foam rolling, you're gonna have to use your body weight and like kind of hold yourself up. But with hamstrings especially, you're gonna have to I just start underneath my butt and then kind of just lean backwards and then foam roll the hamstring this way. And this way you're kind of just coming backwards, and try to let this, you wanna try to let whatever extremity or leg, whatever you're working on, just let it relax as much as possible so you can get some really good work done. With the hamstrings, because it's just the weight of your leg and you can't use tons of body weight, you're not gonna get as much of a deep pressure, but I'll show you how to use the trigger point ball on there as well in the next section. So again, and you can even use your leg more to kind of control things too. And then just take it slow back and forth, and then all the way up into your hip. All right, so that's most of the legs. Take it slow, do whatever you need to for yourself and your body. And now we're gonna go into the hips. The hips are actually one of my favorite spots to foam roll because a lot of people have a lot going on in their hips, and our glutes are huge muscles that carry us around every day and help with a lot of walking and different things. So even if you have like sciatic or hip pain, low back pain, all of this is related. So this is why we would want to work the hips here. I'm gonna start sideways. Let me see what's the best for this. And then, so again, you don't want to be, so if you kind of feel, if you put your hands out and you kind of feel here, you can feel where your hip bones are. Don't go right on top of your bone, but right above it is where those insertions of your glutes are. And so you might want to just find a bone, go right above it, and then I go down on my elbow to get really good weight. Try to relax this bottom leg, that's the one actually getting worked on, and then use your top leg for control. And then there's not a lot of actual foam rolling here as much as there is using the foam roller for a weight to just let your body sink in and release these insertions into your hip of your glute muscles, as they can be really tight and tender. And then you'll see me start to tweak but kind of back and forth. So I started just straight on my hip, and now I'm moving kind of forward. You have your hip insertions kind of come all the way into the front of your hip as well. And there's a muscle called the TFL, that's a hip flexor, right in the front. So if you kind of move forward, just like you see me do, instead of being, again, I was just straight on my hip, that released really well. And I'm just literally just rotating almost frontwards. So I'm just right on the front of my hip now. Again, not on the bone, but on that tensor fascial lata muscle. And I'm just holding this here because I'm feeling it all the way down my quad, all the way around my hip, just holding this trigger point and just letting it release. You want to make sure you're getting all of these areas so that you can encompass the entire area, make sure everything's releasing, and help yourself as much as you can at home. So then if you come back, again, I started here. Now I'm going to go, move myself forward here. Now I'm going to go backwards, rotate myself backwards, rotate, and I'm falling off my roller, so I have to move my body a little bit forward. And then now you can start at the top of the hip and go down. And this is like all of your glute muscles. And if you feel anything, again, just sit and hold it. You're gonna get higher and higher. Notice this leg is still just loosey-goosey. This one's the one controlling me. All the way up to almost sitting position here. And then back down. And then from here, you can actually just go straight into low back. So I mentioned with the low back, I don't go straight on just flat on my back like this. I like to go on the sides because this is where the meat of your muscle is. This is where your QL is, your quadratus lumborum, and this is where your paraspinals are, more on the side. So I go on the side like this. Again, try to keep this leg relaxed as much as possible. Use this leg for foam rolling itself, and then just continue as you kind of saw, just up. And then once I start hitting too much rib, I just kind of come right back down. And often there's just like one little spot right in the middle there that feels really tender, and I just hold that spot. And then again, just roll a little bit forward. That QL is like the front of your back muscles and the back of your front, so it kind of divides your back, and it's kind of like the middle muscle in your body. So if you hold that right there, you'll feel that QL engage, or you'll feel that tenderness of the QL, and you can just hold it right there and let that muscle release there. Breathe through anything that you need to. This one's a little bit more tender for me. My low back always is. And I turned a little bit, but I'm still not flat on my back. I'm still on my side, but this time I can feel more access in the paraspinals, the muscles that are right next to the spinal column. And again, just gonna hold those two. And then now I'm just gonna go right up into the thoracic, and this is the area that you can just go straight down onto your spinal column and kind of get that good stretch throughout your upper back. And that stretch is really good in your upper back because then it's actually, you're lengthening out your pectoralis muscles as well. So many people have so much tension here because we're forward and we hold ourselves forward all day. So if you get this good stretch here, you're really lengthening out your pecs. So you can foam roll here. And just take it slow, and then just let yourself kind of relax out on here and lengthen out everything across your pecs in the front where your pecs insert into your arms, and just let everything relax out. Take a couple deep breaths here. And that's what I have for foam rolling. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or drop any questions below in the comment section. If you have a question, somebody else might as well, so it might be helpful for somebody else if you ask it in the comment section below. And then if you have any concerns or anything, feel free to email me or let me know and DM me or whatnot, wherever you follow me. Or just go back to that section and kind of just rewatch it and see. The biggest thing is listening to your body. If anything feels painful, move on or take it slow or take off some pressure, and just letting things release as you go. It should feel good. It shouldn't be painful. If you're sore, a little bit of soreness is okay, but you shouldn't be super in pain the next day or afterwards or anything like that. I hope you guys enjoyed that section.